Hello there. How do you feel about having your face and perhaps your biometrics scanned continuously whenever you use the internet? Doesn't sound good? I don't like the idea either, but it may come to pass, at least in Australia. Australia passes world first law banning under-16s from social media despite safety concerns. Bill passes amid warning that the process has been rushed and that the ban could push teenagers toward the dark web or into isolation. This from The Guardian, a left-wing website that has pretty much no mention of the idea that this technology could be used for anything nefarious, for censorship or for social credit score like in China. And pretty much the concerns for this bill are that it would push teenagers who will no longer be able to access social media either into being alone or into spaces that are less mainstream and might be more dangerous for them. You can read the entire article. I'll choose the paragraphs that I think are most important here right now, but scanning through the entire thing, reading through it all, I couldn't find one mention of any opposition on the grounds of distrust of the government, of social media websites, using this for anything nefarious. They raised privacy once or twice, and the rest of it is only on the basis that, well, it might not work out as intended. You can see that there is opposition on the basis that I mentioned. Once we move on to LifeSite News, they are much more detailed on how exactly the bill would be implemented and why it's not a good idea. Like I said, probably it would involve scanning you for biometrics, your face most likely, the entire duration of your use of the internet. Anyway, it says here that Australia's parliament has passed a law that will aim to do what no other government has, and many parents have tried to stop children from using social media. The new law was drafted in response to what the Labour Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says is a clear causal link between the rise of social media and the harm to the mental health of young Australians. I agree that social media platforms and adult websites cause a lot of harm, especially to young people who are still in their formative years. It should be up to the parents, and perhaps we can make their job easier, creating safeguards that they can activate. That said, giving social media platforms the ability to monitor everyone online is going to cause much, much worse problems. The cure is worse than the disease. Not worth it, never do it. It says that the Senate passed the bill by 34 votes to 19, banning children under 16 from social media platforms on Australia. Academics, politicians, and advocacy groups have warned that the ban, as envisioned by the government, could backfire, driving teenagers to the dark web or making them feel more isolated. There are questions about how it will work in practice. Many worry that the process has been too rushed, and that if users are asked to prove their age, it could lead to social media companies being handed valuable personal data. Even Elon Musk has weighed in. It's called the Online Safety Amendment Social Media Minimum Age Bill. It bans social media platforms from allowing users under 16 to access their services, threatening companies with fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars or 32 in US dollars if they fail to comply. However, it contains no details about how it will work, only that the companies will be expected to take reasonable steps to ensure users are age 16 or over. The detail will come later, through the completion of a trial of age assurance technology in mid-2025. The bill won't come into force for another 12 months. I love how bills are so wide now, they just literally give you the power to do whatever you want. How is it going to be implemented? We don't know. We'll figure it out later. You have to pass the bill to find out what's in it. Do you remember Nancy Pelosi? This is not quite the same. We know what's in it. It's a blank check. Do with it as you will. You can decide later on that one person is complying while the other is not. It doesn't matter. You literally passed something that gives the government the power to control the internet with no specifics. And the bill does not specify which companies the legislation would apply to, though Communication Minister Michelle Rowland has said that Snapchat, TikTok, X, Instagram, Reddit, and Facebook are likely to be part of the ban. YouTube will not be included because of its significant educational purpose, she said. Probably because it's very powerful under Google and very friendly to the regime, but what do I know? The bill was introduced to Parliament last week with just 30 sitting days left on the parliamentary calendar. It received 15,000 submissions in a day. Among these was one from Amnesty International recommending that the bill not be passed because a ban that isolates young people will not meet the government's objective of improving young people's lives. The number of responses increased dramatically, the Australian broadcaster ABC reported, after ex-owner Musk reposted a tweet by Albanese announcing that the bill would be introduced that day, writing, "Seems like a backdoor way to control access to the internet by all Australians." Most of the submissions were a form response, the ABC reported, with fewer than 100 submissions made by interest groups. Musk has clashed repeatedly with the Australian government this year over requests to remove graphic content and separate legislation aimed at tackling deliberate lies spread on social media platforms. I doubt he has any problem with removing graphic content, but what they call deliberate lies, well, turns out to be the truth often. For example, remember the Hunter Biden laptop story that they claimed very vehemently was not true, and then after the elections in 2020, admitted was true. It wasn't an isolated incident, it happens all the time. So governments forcing people to censor the truth, claiming it's lies, is nothing new and we shouldn't trust them. Now, it says here that the Senate's Environment and Communications Legislation Committee supported the bill but added the condition that social media platforms not force users to submit personal data, including passport information. It is unclear what methods social media companies would use to enforce age restrictions. Again, it's a blank check. A YouGov survey released on Tuesday this week showed 77% of Australians backed the ban, up from 61% in an August survey. Now, having watched the Lotus sitters quite a bit, they have their own YouGov polls and they have shown that these are very untrustworthy to say the least. That said, I would imagine that a lot of people could be hoodwinked into believing that this is a good idea because protecting the children is something that any sane and normal person would want to do, and there is proof enough that social media is causing harm. That said, like I said, cure is worse than the disease in this case. Each of Australia's 8 state and territory leaders supports the ban. The Tasmanian's leader suggested it end at 14. The federal opposition supports the bill, claiming that it promised to have a ban in place within 100 days if it wins next year's election. 140 experts signed an open letter expressing their concern that the bill is too blunt an instrument to address risks effectively. Among their concerns are that it creates even more risks for children who may still use platforms, and it bans affect rights to access and participation. Australia's Human Rights Commission has serious reservation about the ban, given the potential for these laws to significantly interfere with the rights of children and young people. They say strange stuff like, the voices of children and young people have been conspicuously missing from most of the debate and commentary. Since when do you consult with kids about what's good for kids? You consult with kids about what's good for them in terms of watching adult stuff or on what to eat. They'll tell you that they don't want to eat their veggies, right? It's insane. You don't consult with kids to decide what's good for them. You might consult with them to see how they react to specifically on the ground. What are the results of your legislation? That could be a good idea. Have surveys to figure out what do kids do after you ban social media. Although, once again, you shouldn't be doing it. Parents should be doing it. The government and social media are going to use this for nefarious purposes, in my opinion. Anyway, Australia passed a social media ban for kids under 16 is on LifeSite News, and what they said that was interesting to me is this. The bill is banning the idea of giving government-issued IDs and such, which means, while this provision appears to rule out the use of digital IDs for now, the question of how it will be enforced remains. The Guardian reports that supporters of the bill have said that platforms may use biometric methods, such as facial scans, to verify the age of its users. This would of course mean that social media companies would collect the biometric data of all its users in Australia. The explanatory memorandum to the bill says that there will be robust privacy protections, including prohibiting platforms from using information collected for age assurance purposes for any other purpose unless explicitly agreed to by the individual. So they'll just have this agreement. If you've ever played video games, you know that each video game, just like a social media platform when you sign up, has all of the agreements at the beginning that you have to agree to, not when you buy the game, but rather when you try to install it. So essentially you've already spent money, now you have something that is utterly useless unless you agree. It'll be the same with social media. They'll just have this agreement that you let them do whatever they want with your data. Once the information has been used for assurance or any other agreed purpose, it must be destroyed by the platform or any third party contracted by the platform, the memorandum states. So assuming they have a purpose that you agreed to that is continuous use, they'll just not have to destroy it anyway, incidentally. However, the memorandum also explains that compliance with the minimum age obligation will likely require platforms to implement systems and procedures to monitor and respond to age-restricted users circumventing age assurance. This suggests that social media companies could continuously monitor a user while using the platform, for instance by repeatedly doing face scans to ensure that the user is still the same and at least 16 years old. The vaguely worded bill does not specify which companies will be affected by the age. Yeah, we've already read that one. This one's important. In addition to the under-16 social media ban requiring age verification of users, the Australian government also sought to curb speech online via a draconian misinformation and disinformation bill. However, the government had to abandon the controversial bill after facing significant cross-party opposition in the Senate. The bill would have forced social media companies to remove information that was reasonably verifiable as false or if misinformation and disinformation could cause serious harm. The vague definitions of these terms would have allowed social media companies or the government to arbitrarily censor content it deemed unwanted. So once again, the breadth of these bills allows them as a blank check to do whatever they want, and once they normalize it, there's nothing stopping them from expanding it. I remember back when Canada first introduced the MAID program, which is, aid in ending yourself. They claimed that it was only going to be used for people who are very, very sick and are about to be gone anyway, to save them from all the suffering and indignity that waiting for the end would cause. Quickly, it expanded, and I believe now it is one of the major causes of people being gone in Canada, like 6th on the list or something. It's something insane. Right now, they allow people to be ended for reasons of depression, any handicaps or other problems that are, difficult but not life-endangering. And I believe they have it to veterans that want, medical aid for stuff. They offer that to them as well, try to pressure them into it even. These programs are quickly expanded once allowed in. This will start with, well, you need to buy this, or perhaps they'll even give everyone some contraption that scans your face, or perhaps even your entire body, constantly while you're sitting on the computer, or maybe something that will be included in smartphones. And after that is normalized, they'll just expand it from social media to using the internet, to using the computer at all, to using the cell phone at all. And at first it will be, well, it's just your biometrics, but soon it will be a digital ID, and it will be required for everything. Do remember, they want to give you smart homes, smart cars, smart appliances like your fridge or something. You will be completely dependent on this digital ID for everything in your life. And this is the basis for social media credit score. Social credit score like in China, and for CBDCs. The thing is, we are warning about things that have already happened in certain dystopian regimes, and things that the people in power are explicitly saying they want to enact on us. Like CBDCs, central bank digital currency, being programmable money that the people in power can use to decide what you can and can't buy and when. If you can buy, for example, a bus ticket or a train ticket in order to reach a certain place. Let's say you want to be part of a demonstration against some measure the government has put up. then the government can decide that your request to buy a train ticket or a bus ticket or a taxi fare is denied, because through CBDCs they will be able to see every transaction and deny any transaction. They can have carbon taxes on you. They can have carbon limits on how much you spend on food or heating your house or whatever. And they say they want to do all these things. If you listen to the UN and the World Economic Forum, which are where the strong corporate advocates are stationed, you'll see that they say these things out loud. And every country on the planet pretty much has programs to introduce CBDCs. Not all of them are currently active, but all of them have drafted such proposals, if not tested them already. So it may sound crazy, it may sound dystopian, it may sound alarmist, but the thing is, we're not talking about, well, they could do this. We're talking about they said they want to do this, they've already started planning how to do this, they might even be testing doing this, and they are in Africa rolling it out. This is the essentially testing field on a countrywide scale. They will work out the kinks, they will figure out how to impose it against the will of the people, because where they tried CBDCs, almost nobody actually started using it. And if we don't take heed right now, if you allow it to be normalized, it'll be too late later. Once we are completely dependent on the approval of the government and the banks and the big social media corporations for everything in our lives, once it becomes impossible for us to even, find food and shelter for ourselves without the approval of the corporations and the government, we won't be able to do anything against them. We won't be able to mount any resistance. This is the beginning of the end for freedom for the human race. And I, for one, am absolutely going to go with peaceful resistance for as long as it is viable, and we'll see afterwards. It's just insane. Absolutely. Look at this example. A capital on lockdown, internet blackouts, and protesters clashing with police. What's going on in Pakistan? So in Pakistan, people are demonstrating against the government. Regardless, I don't want to get into why or who's right. What is the government doing? Internet blackouts. So you won't be able to assemble. You won't be able to organize. Because obviously the new public square is online. With populations being as high as they are, and everyone now dependent on the internet to communicate, in order to, make contact with other people en masse. There are no physical places to congregate anymore. Everybody's indoors, everybody is online. So how do you block protests against the government? Internet blackouts. Woohoo! This is just an example. This is just the beginning. China did the same thing when they had problems, but also when they had bank runs. People were with distrust in the financial system. They did the same thing. People, we should absolutely block this. Resist this. They are dangling, think of the children in front of your faces. They are saying this is for a good cause and we will have all the safeguards you want. This is a Trojan horse. Do not believe them. Thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time.